Week 2 of Big Brother 26 has come and gone, and while it wasn't nearly as chaotic or hectic as the first week was, there were definitely its fair share of drama, tension, and even more fights from Angela. But how did it all break down? Well, that's why I am here. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down and recapping the events of week 2 of Big Brother 26 and giving my updated power rankings. So with all of that preamble out of the way, it is the one and only RJ21 here, and let's get to the Big Brother 26 week 2 recap and power ranking. Week 2 starts off with the Animal Obsession HOH competition. Basically, the competing house guests watched a compilation of funny animal videos, and then they had to answer true or false questions about said compilation. Get the answer right, and you stay in the game. Get the answer wrong, and you're eliminated. The last house guest standing would become the new head of household. Ultimately, the competition came down to Chelsie, Leah, and T-Core, with Chelsie coming out on top and winning the head of household, which was a definite positive for her, considering that she was literally the BBAI mascot last week for coming last place in a competition there. So for her to essentially win the very next competition she competes in is honestly a really empowering moment for her. Chelsie's HOH can go in one of two directions. She can either go with the easy route and nominate the easy house targets in Kenney, Angela, and Lisa because of their antics in the previous week, or she can go after the people who voted for Matt to stay in Lisa, Makensy, and Leah, seeing that they are technically on the perceivable other side of the house. When talking to her initial alliance members, she's kind of wishy-washy about where she wants to go. However, after a conversation with Tucker, where Tucker really hammers in on wanting to target Lisa, it makes Chelsea's decision a little bit better about nominating Lisa, but Lisa was in both plans anyway, so it really wasn't a deciding factor or anything major like that. Chelsie then has a conversation with Makensy about the nominations, and in a move of self-preservation, Makensy tells Chelsie about her power, America's veto, essentially telling her what it is and what it does and everything she would want to know about it, in an attempt to not only build trust with Chelsie, but to deter Chelsie away from nominating her this week. Ultimately, it works, and Chelsie is steered away from wanting to target the Makensy and Leah side of the house. After this meeting, we then get a real solidification of the Pentagon, an alliance that had some remnants forming within the first week, but now they are a real, true power structure in this week. And while some members in Cam wanted to go after the targets and the bigger players in Makensy and Leah, the rest of the alliance wanted to get no blood on Chelsea's hand and wanted her to go with the house targets. So, at the nomination ceremony, Chelsie chooses to nominate Angela, Kenney, and Lisa, with Lisa as the initial target. We then see a conversation in the backyard between Cam, Chelsie, Cedric, and T-Core, where they're just talking and chatting it up, not really talking any game talk, but they are discussing the idea of how they wouldn't want to target each other and have all of them make it to at least jury and possibly have the idea of another black winner and how that would be a pretty good thing if that were to happen. But they didn't solidify anything about that actually happening. Angela sees the four of them conversating outside and believes that that is the group that she wants to work with. So she goes to Quinn and tells Quinn that's the group, implying that that's the group of people that she wants to work with herself and Quinn. However, Quinn does not interpret Angela's message that way and instead believes Angela is saying that that is the group of people that they need to look out for. And this does not rock well with Quinn, as Quinn is in an alliance with Cedric, Chelsie, and Cam and has a bit of an unspoken agreement with T-Core. So this is already really bad news for Quinn. So Quinn goes to T-Core and tells T-Core what Angela said about how Angela pointed the four of them out and how Angela said that's the group. T-Core then goes to Cedric and then tells Cedric that Angela had said this to Quinn. And this is just a really complicated game of telephone that gets way out of hand after the veto. Speaking of the veto, when picking players for the Power Veto competition, the HOH and Chelsie, the three nominees in Angela, Kenney, and Lisa, and two players chosen by random draw in Brooklyn and Joseph are going to compete in this veto. This veto competition is Code Tower, and the house guests are given these puzzle pieces of binary blocks of ones and zeros, and they have to build a tower high enough to reach a laser. If the laser does in fact hit the top of their tower, they win the power of veto. And in all honesty, this competition wasn't even close. Everybody was dropping their blocks and everybody's tower was falling, except for Kenney, who ends up winning this power of veto. With it being pretty apparent that Kenney is going to use the power of veto to save himself, Chelsie now is faced with the realization that she has to name a replacement nominee. It's with this realization that Cedric goes to Chelsie and tells Chelsie about what T-Core had said to him. Chelsie then confronts Angela about this conversation and asks Angela about this conversation, to which Angela comes to the realization that Quinn had leaked the information that she had given him. So Angela goes to Quinn in the bathroom and confronts Quinn about what they had said, and it leads to this whole blow up about Angela saying that she doesn't trust Quinn and how Quinn backstabbed her and betrayed her, and she blew it real out of proportion. And then T-Core eventually joins the conversation, where T-Core asks for clarification about what Angela had said, to where Angela does express her original sentiment of how that was the group of people she wanted to work with, not the group of people she wanted to target. T-Core then points out the implicit bias in what Angela has said, as it is a bit suspicious and comes off the wrong way in how Angela was making this blanket statement about how 4 black people were having a conversation in the backyard, and then Angela immediately pinned them as a group, and how that message can come off the wrong way. It's after this message where Angela has a complete and utter emotional breakdown, where she is crying to the entire house about how she's not a racist and how she had never had any intentions about it being related to race in any sort of matter, and she is just breaking down in Cedric's arms, which is honestly a little bit funny considering the ramifications of the situation and how serious of a topic it is. But for Angela's reaction to be so overblown and so over the top, it's almost comedic in an ironic sense. With Angela's story essentially coming to a pause in this sense, this is where Tucker's story begins, as even though Tucker had campaigned earlier in the week to get Lisa on the block, now that Lisa hadn't won the veto, Tucker viewed this as the perfect opportunity to take one for the team and goes to Chelsie and volunteers himself to go up on the block because he wanted to be the one to win the AI arena and beat Lisa and essentially be the reason that Lisa is sent home. After this, Tucker then confronts Makensy in the bathroom, where Tucker essentially outs Makensy for having a power, to which Makensy then pulls Tucker into the storage room a little time later and confirms to Tucker that she does in fact have the power. She doesn't say what the power is, but she implies that it gives her immunity, which definitely makes Tucker a little uneasy. Tucker then goes to Chelsie and tries to backpedal on what he had initially said about putting himself up as the replacement nominee, and instead campaigns for Makensy to be the replacement nominee, to essentially flush her power out. These pleas, however, were all for naught, as at the veto ceremony, Kenney, as expected, used the power veto to save himself, and Tucker was named as the replacement nominee. We then get even more drama, with Tucker confronting Lisa about Lisa not voting with the House and Lisa potentially having a power, where Lisa denies all of it, especially the power thing, considering she actually doesn't have one, but Tucker is not buying it whatsoever. It's then when the Angela show starts picking back up, as Angela begins spiraling even more. Because Angela felt so betrayed by Quinn, Angela goes to Tucker, who she perceives as somebody who is in a lot of people's ears, and essentially tells Tucker that Quinn has the upgrade and Quinn has the power, not Lisa. However, because Angela has created so much mistrust within the house, Tucker, as well as all of the other house guests who Tucker tells, does not believe Angela in the slightest. It's after this realization that nobody believes her, to where Angela starts downward spiraling even more, to the point where she's almost resolute in the fact that she is going to be the one going home. So she goes around and just starts acting however she wants, particularly towards Lisa, to where she's just imitating her walk and kind of making fun of her. But then she takes it one step further by calling her a twit, and this starts a bit of a mini argument that ends in Lisa crying in the storage room. And I know people have called this bullying and Angela being a bully, but me personally, I don't really see it that way. If this was old school Big Brother, nobody would have any complaints and we'd be all up in arms about it. But because it's modern Big Brother and it's because it's Angela who's the one who's doing it, and considering all that she did in the previous week to Matt, people are calling Angela a bully, and I do not believe that narrative whatsoever. We then get to the BBAI arena, where Angela, Lisa, and Tucker are fighting for their safety in this game. The competition is called Security Race, and it's essentially just a really big puzzle. There's a gear, there's a shield, and there's a fingerprint. The first house guest to complete their puzzle and ring the buzzer will win their safety and win the AI arena. This competition wasn't even close, all things considered, as Tucker smashed this competition before Angela could even lay a single piece down. Tucker sped through this competition, leaving Angela and Lisa as the final nominees. Ultimately, at the live vote and eviction, by a vote of 11-1, Lisa is officially the second house guest to be evicted from the Big Brother 26 house, with only Kenney voting to keep her. Now it's time to get to the power rankings. At number 15, the most recently evicted house guest, we have Lisa. And I know I said last week that Matt could potentially be in the conversation for one of the worst Big Brother players in Big Brother history, but I think that's more so because of how crazy his crash and burn was, all things considered. But now looking that Lisa has been evicted from the house, I would definitely say that Lisa is a worse player than Matt. I mean, Lisa's game this season was god awful. You know, it's unfortunate that Lisa is unfortunately one of those personalities that just doesn't gel well with her specific cast, and I don't think she had any potential from the start, to be quite honest, you know, especially with the whole makeup of this cast. I don't think she was ever going to do well. And in all honesty, I don't think she's going to do well on any other season. I think she's a bit oblivious to how she comes off to other people. Not to say like that's a statement of her character or anything, but that's how her personality showed within the Big Brother house. And she didn't do anything effective. She just rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in the first week, won the first veto, but then proceeded to do nothing with that in terms of gaining social capital or building allies. I mean, the only real ally she had by the end of her time in the Big Brother house was Leah, and Leah didn't even vote to keep her. It was Kenney who voted to keep her. So Lisa just does a really poor job in building any sort of social capital and rubbing people the wrong way. Like, that's probably her biggest thing this season, is just rubbing a lot of house guests the wrong way. And she doesn't even realize that she's doing it, which is honestly a bit sad in retrospect. But what's even sadder is the fact that she got blindsided. Like, the fact that she got duped by the entire house into thinking that she was going to stay is honestly really sad, and it's a testament to how bad of a player Lisa was. But all in all, she was a horrible player. She didn't do anything noteworthy besides winning the first veto. She was an immediate target, and she was taken out in a position where, me personally, I don't think she should have been taken out. But Lisa's evicted, and she's done, and she is here at number 15.
I'm still on the block, but my vibe is giving winner.
Now it's time to talk about the players that are actually still in the house. At number 14, the house guest I believe to be in the worst position in the house is Angela. And I don't think anybody should be surprised by this if you've been keeping up with the live feeds. Like, Angela has done such a bad job this week. Like, she's done such a horrible job. Like, she was treating this week as if it was her last week. And I think that sort of mindset is what has caused her to crash and burn in this sense. She was a bit of a chaotic figure when it wasn't really necessary. Everybody was kind of in a consensus that Lisa was the house target, and Lisa should be the house target and should be the one taken out. But Angela directly went out of her way to make herself a bigger target. Like, it just doesn't make sense. She burned any semblances of social capital she had remaining from the previous week, and she just scorched them and let them burn in flames. Like, it was really bad. Like, she unnecessarily just outed Quinn's power, which I guess if it were further down the line, it would be a lot more impactful. But Angela had done such a poor job in building trust with other people to the point where she is telling people the truth. Quinn does in fact have this power app, but so little people trust Angela where everybody thinks she's lying, even though she is telling the truth. And what's even worse is that it's in Angela's best interest to not tell people that Quinn has the power app, because one of the underlying reasons as to why people wanted to send Lisa out of the house was the thought that Lisa had a power app. But because Angela was telling people that Lisa didn't have this power app, it essentially switches the target from Lisa to herself. She's essentially campaigning for herself to go home, to where if Lisa doesn't have this power app, then what's the point in taking her out? Everybody knows she's going to be a house pariah. Let's take out somebody who's causing a lot of chaos and is shown to be competent in winning competitions in Angela. So she was essentially campaigning for herself to go home, which is really bad. And now that she's still in the house in a time where she thought she was going home, she has very few people actually actively protecting her, leaving her as the next obvious house target. And it's all of this bad work combined that leaves her here at number 14.
I don't know if it's my heightened senses or what, but Lisa just walks around and just rubs me wrong. She is just prancing around with her little glitter.
At number 13, I have Kenney, and I should dub him Kenney the Quitter, because he has been trying to self-evict like this entire week. Like, it just makes no sense. It's very obvious that he doesn't have the passion or drive to be in the Big Brother house anymore, especially after Matt went home. So it's pretty obvious that Kenney doesn't want to stay, and that's apparent in his actions within the house. He's not playing the game at all. Like, he was put up on the block and then he wins the veto. Like, winning the veto was the perfect opportunity for him to build some sort of social capital now that he is safe. Like, he could have rekindled some bonds that he initially built, and he could have tried finding some allies who were willing to pick him up as a number. But instead, he just uses the veto on himself and then starts going on tangents about how he's upset at people not going to sleep before a specific time and how people are keeping him up. Like, if you want to leave, leave. Like, no one is stopping you from walking in and self-evicting. Like, if you don't want to be in the Big Brother house, you don't have to be in the Big Brother house. And it's getting to the point where people are actively, like, agitated at Kenney because he is so resolute in not wanting to be there anymore, to where he could be, like, the next potential target after Angela, where Kenney's not a target in the sense that he's going to do damage in this game, but he's just becoming this very unlikable presence within the house that's like a really gloomy cloud just looming over everybody. And it's just making a lot of people, like, it's just rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And it's making me, as a super fan of this game, really upset, because it's like, if you want to quit, just quit, you know? But all in all, Kenney hasn't done any effective work. He has very few allies in the game, and he's going to be the perpetual pawn until he's evicted, leaving him here at number 13.
I'm a fighter, I'm a winner, and I'm not going nowhere.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap.
At number 12, I have Leah. And it's a bit shocking to have Leah this low, considering how much potential she had to do great work and put herself in a great position in the previous week. But Leah has just kind of squandered all of that. Initially, I thought she was going to try and play the middle, play both sides, but now she has really cemented herself and affiliated herself with one side of the house. She is staying loyal to Makensy. She is sticking with that for the foreseeable future, and that is doing her a lot of harm in this short term. A lot of people don't want to work with Leah anymore. People are finding that there are just better options in the house other than Leah, so they're going to them instead of Leah, where Leah should have been picked up as a good number. I think Leah would have been a great ally to have. She seems like a really loyal person. She seems like somebody who's competent in these competitions. I mean, she was in the final 3 for these past 2 HOHs, so she's definitely no slouch in terms of like competitions. But overall, Leah has just done so little work in like trying to build any sort of alliances or sort of allegiances and trying to reconstruct some semblance of a power structure. Like, she's just kind of sticking by Makensy's side and being Makensy's number 2. And I think this is going to do a lot of damage for her in the short term, because now that everybody, or essentially everybody, knows that Makensy has this America's veto that is going to keep her safe, people are going to want to weaken Makensy. And how are they going to weaken Makensy? By taking out her number 1 ally in Leah. And she doesn't have anybody on the other side of the house really campaigning for her except for Quinn. But Leah has been actively pushing that relationship away and not really taking any regards to that in a position where she should be taking it. So overall, Leah has just been really disappointing in these past couple of days and letting her game essentially slip through her fingers, and has been really passive in not trying to form anything. And it's because of this I have to put her here at number 12.
We were part of a alliance called the Barbershop, which was true BS, if you know what I'm saying, because it obviously never existed.
At number 11, I have Leah's current ride or die in Makensy. And Makensy is only this high because of America's veto. Makensy is a very obvious target that people want to take out pre-jury. Like, numerous people have talked about their optimal pre-jury, or that their dream pre-jury would have Makensy being taken out. And that's not a good thing. But the only reason why people aren't targeting Makensy immediately is because of America's veto. Everybody knows that Makensy has this power that can keep her safe and essentially give her immunity. So for the upcoming 2 weeks, she's not going to be touching the block. However, as soon as that power expires, she is prime target number 1. To where Makensy is going to really need like to win an HOH in order to build a power structure around her. Because if that doesn't happen, then Makensy is essentially screwed. Like, Makensy really, and I mean really, needs to find more people outside of just like the girls. Like, she has this all girls alliance, but the girls in this all girls alliance have better options outside of the all girls alliance. So there really is no benefit for anybody to stick loyal to the all girls alliance except for Makensy and maybe Leah, but Leah has the potential to go to other people, but she's just not using them. But still, Makensy has very little options as of right now, and she is just such a big target that once her power expires, she's going to be in a really, really bad position, which is why I have her here at number 11.
Now, all I have to make sure is Angela does not win this veto comp and I can get some payback for her tanking Matt's game.
At number 10, I have Joseph. And Joseph is kind of playing possum right now. Like, he's really not doing much in terms of strategizing and really building up a lot of these alliances. Like, I know Joseph said in the preseason that he wanted to play like Dan Giesling from Big Brother 10, and initially I didn't really believe him because I was like, is this guy really going to become the next coming of Dan Giesling? But in all honesty, it seems like his gameplay is kind of panning out this way, to where he is this more passive figure. He is this more low profile figure within the house that a lot of people like and a lot of people view as an integral figure to their power structures that they want to keep around, but nobody is actively going to bat for Joseph. I know Joseph has a couple ride or dies in people like Tucker and Quinn, but I feel like both Tucker and Quinn have better options than Joseph. So I feel like Joseph does need to be a little bit more careful in terms of like finding the right people and ensuring that the people that he is working with do want to work with him long term. And as it stands right now, he is power structure adjacent, to where he is not within the core, but the people in the core want to keep Joseph around for longer, which is a great prospect for him. However, there have been some talks about putting Joseph up as a potential pawn, and I feel like if the AI arena or the veto were to go the wrong way, then Joseph would definitely be in a lot of trouble. But all in all, I think Joseph is in a fine position as it is right now. Like, it's definitely not a position where he's going to be in any immediate danger, but if he stays possum and plays passively for a bit too much longer, then he's definitely going to be in some serious trouble, which is why he is here at number 10.
It might surprise you people, but I'm actually pretty competitive, so I'm in it to win it.
At number 9, I have Cam. And this might be a bit of a hot take, but just hear me out for a second. Cam did not have a good week this week. Like, it wasn't like atrociously bad to where he's like a house target now, but it certainly wasn't doing him any favors in like the long run. I didn't talk about this when I did the week 2 recap because it wasn't really that integral to the outcome of the week, but Cam volunteered to go up on the block. Like, Cam nearly went up on the block as a pawn, and if they had that same mentality about getting Matt out as they did with Cam, then Cam would have been a goner. Luckily, by the grace of Chelsie changing her mind, Cam didn't go up on the block. And it feels like after Cam realized how bad of a decision that was, Cam chose to just not do anything for the remainder of this week, except like, I don't know, flirt with Leah. But even then, that wasn't that particularly good for him because now Leah wants to distance herself from Cam. So now Cam really doesn't have any sort of like solid alliances or allies outside of the alliances he was previously included in. And my big issue with Cam is that he has all of these alliances, but he is unintentionally at the bottom of these alliances. Like I talked about it last week with the core with himself, Chelsie, and Cedric, that Chelsie and Cedric are much closer to one another than they are to Cam. So Cam is clearly on the outs in that sense. Within the Pentagon, Cam is viewed as the athletic dude. He's the guy who's built, he's the guy who's supposed to be doing well in these like end game competitions. So if that sentiment stays true, then Cam is going to be targeted in that sense. And as it stands right now, I firmly believe that Cam doesn't have any ride or dies. Cam does not have any people in the house who are locked in with him and saying that I want to take him or I want to take Cam to final 2. Nobody has given Cam that sort of assurance or that sort of promise. And that is doing Cam really, really badly. Like, Cam could go much sooner than we expect if he doesn't start locking in some sort of like deals or like final 2s. Like, he really needs to hammer those in, or else he's going to be seen as the big target that a lot of people are sizing him up to be, and he could be taken out sooner rather than later. And it's with all of these concerns combined that I have to put Cam here at number 9.
I feel great about the nominations this week. I'm working with the Pentagon, but the core is me, Cedric, Chelsie, and it's best for our game for these nominations to stay the same and Lisa can go home.
At number 8, I have Tucker. And Tucker's week this week was a mixed bag, to say the least. First of all, I don't agree with ever volunteering to go up on the block as a pawn. So I definitely don't agree with Tucker's decision this week to nominate himself as a pawn, albeit it did work out for him in the end. But still, it's never a good idea for you to like volunteer yourself up as a block. Like, I'll never truly understand volunteering yourself up on the block in a position where you're most likely going to be safe. So I really don't agree with Tucker's decision on that front. However, I think Tucker's doing a pretty good job in terms of like building alliances and building like power structures. He has the Andersons alliance with himself, Cam, Quinn, and Kimo, and while it is degrading at least a little bit, at least it's something that is giving Tucker these connections that he does need for the future, for his future in this game. I think Tucker's doing a pretty good job at locking in his final two with Rubina. I know they've been getting shipped together a lot on like Twitter and things like that, and it's honestly a little cute to see, but Tucker's doing a really good job in locking in that relationship. But the reason why Tucker is this high, but not like super high, is because he is like on the verge of being included in alliances. There is this possible alliance that could be formed in the future with Kimo, T-Core, Quinn, Rubina, Brooklyn, and himself. Like, that could be a really solid 6 for him. The only issue is that that 6 has not formed yet. And if they don't form, then Tucker is not going to have any of those inroads. And that's going to be really bad for his game. The fact that he's been on the block already is going to make people feel a little bit easier, or it's going to make people feel like it's a bit easier to put Tucker up on the block again. And if that's the position Tucker's going to be in, it could be very easy for Tucker to be taken out. Hell, some people have talked already about like wanting to take Tucker out pre-jury because of how big of a threat he could be. And all in all, this is just going back to what I was saying about how volunteering to go up on the block was not a really good decision, at least looking at his long-term prospects. So all in all, while he has done a really good job at locking in some allies and having some potential new alliances form and bloom around him, his decision to go up on the block was not a good one, and it honestly did him more harm than good, which is why he is here at number 8.
Can I get a matcha, please? Maybe with some rose water.
So annoying.
At number 7, I have Rubina, and Rubina's in a bit of a weird spot, more so because of like her gameplay style. She's not strategically active in that she's making these big moves and she's directing the direction of the game and influencing things in that sense, but she is very socially active. Like, she's doing a lot of good work in building these alliances with these people and building really strong bonds with other people, to the point where she's being roped in to a lot of alliances because people see her as a very key figure, a very key influential figure that they could bring along for the long term. She got brought into the all-girls alliance, and now with this new theoretical alliance forming with Kimo and T-Core and Quinn and possibly Brooklyn and Tucker, that is going to be a really good alliance for her long term. The only issue is that that alliance actually hasn't formed yet, so I honestly can't give her credit in that sense because she doesn't have that assured safety just yet. She also has the issue of possibly being thrown around as a pawn. I think Angela said sometime earlier in the week that if she were to win HOH, she would want Quinn to expose his power by nominating some combination that includes Rubina. And that is really bad for Rubina's game. I think she just needs to really solidify her spot in the overall power structure of the entire house. I think she really needs to start locking in those deals and start really building more alliances with these people. Like that possible alliance, that theoretical alliance that could be forming in the near future, she needs to lock that in like urgently, or else she is going to eventually become pawn material, and that is going to be really bad for her future prospects in the game. However, as it stands right now, she's in a pretty good spot. She's liked by a lot of people. She's not a foreseeable target in the near future. She could be used as a pawn, but I think she, as of right now, has a lot of numbers that could keep her safe for the short term, which is why I have her here at number 7.
Rubina is friends with both women on the block. Who does she think is best to evict for her game and her sanity?
At number 6, I have Cedric, and Cedric hasn't really done that much differently from the first week, but because of all of the good work he did in that first week, it's really carrying him hard into this week. I don't think Cedric did a lot of like super active work besides making a final 2 with Quinn. But in all honesty, I don't even know if that final 2 is going to stick because Quinn just has so many options at this point. But that's besides the point. Cedric is at least trying to do effective work in branching out with other people and building more one-on-one bonds in that sense. And while it was effective, his strength in this game ultimately comes down to the Pentagon. And right now, because the Pentagon is the real like core structure within the house that is kind of dictating how things are going right now, I think Cedric has a lot of power in that sense. However, I think Cedric is starting to struggle in his long-term aspects. I talked about him being one of the first targets from the Pentagon, and while I don't think he is the first target, I do think he is one of like the potential targets from the Pentagon, you know, because of how not well insulated he is throughout the entire house. I think Cedric is really going to struggle in terms of managing his threat level. People are already pegging him as a threat that needs to be taken out down the road, and that's definitely not a sentiment you want to be spread around the house week 2. So all in all, I think Cedric is in a little bit of trouble because he is doing a pretty poor job in terms of managing his threat level and how people are perceiving him, but he still has a really good alliance and a really good power structure surrounding him that is keeping him safe for the short term. So because of that, I have Cedric here at number 6.
You know, Mama Angela has clocked 3 out of 5 of us Pentagon members, and in my head, that means Angela could see us as a threat. And I mean, to me, that's the only reason you call us out. And if you keep talking about us, you'll have the full weight of our alliance coming down on you.
At number 5, I have Kimo. And I said last week that Kimo has the potential to do really well and to really boost himself in these power rankings, and he was able to do that. While he wasn't like the most strategically active in the world, socially speaking, he did a phenomenal job in really bonding with other people and locking in a lot of alliances. He was essentially brought into what was the remnants of the collective alliance, and now he has the Visionaries alliance with himself, T-Core, and Quinn. And I think that is a really strong 3. Like, if that 3 can lock in with one another and maintain that trust throughout the rest of the game, I think that puts Kimo in a really, really good position. And to add on to that, Kimo is closer to both Quinn and T-Core than Quinn and T-Core are to each other. So that puts Kimo in the best spot within that alliance in and of itself. So all in all, like, Kimo is doing a great job as of right now. He essentially shifted his position from being this possible pawn to somebody that people aren't even considering to put up on the block now. Like, nobody is talking about how they want to put Kimo up on the block again, despite how easy it could be considering he was already on the block. Kimo is this really affable ally that a lot of people want to keep around for the long term, which is great. And if Kimo can maintain all of these strong bonds that he has created, Kimo could go the distance. He could really be a front runner to do well in this season. It's just a matter of him preserving his relationships and him doing active work to put himself in a better position. And it's because of all of this potential he has to do so well in this game and how much he's improved from the previous week that he is here at number 5.
It's interesting just to kind of hear different people's experiences, especially when faith is involved, because that's something that's so relevant to my life. You know, I was raised in the church. I never felt like I was unsafe or like unloved, but that does not negate the fact that I didn't feel understood.
At number 4, I have T-Core. And T-Core is essentially in the same position as Kimo, but I put T-Core higher than Kimo because T-Core has built more relationships than Kimo. T-Core has been able to build this really strong bond with the likes of Chelsie, and that has been able to help build inroads with more people like Cedric and Cam. But outside of those relationships, T-Core is in a very similar position to Kimo. T-Core is very close with Kimo and Quinn. They have the Visionaries together, and T-Core is doing a really good job in that sense. T-Core also has a pretty solid bond with Rubina that is ultimately leading to this possible formation of this theoretical alliance that I've been talking about with the previous couple of house guests. But all T-Core needs to do is really lock in those numbers. And I think if T-Core can do that, she's going to be in a prime position to do well in this game. Like I said about T-Core last week, T-Core had the makings of to be this great social player, somebody who is able to be thrust into this great position if she is active and pouncing on all of this opportunities that are being laid out in front of her, and she is doing just that. And I think if T-Core can maintain that, then I think T-Core is going to be in a really good position for a really long time. The reason I don't have T-Core higher is simply because she just doesn't have as many relationships as the top 3. And that's mostly because of all of the passivity she had in the previous week. But if T-Core maintains on this trajectory, I could totally see T-Core being in an amazing position in these future weeks. So all in all, I think T-Core is in a great position and has the potential to be even greater, which is why I have her here at number 4.
I genuinely really appreciate the apology, and I believe that Angela is a sweet and kind person, and I think the paranoia of being in this house has made her, you know, kind of react in ways that she wouldn't in a normal world. All is forgiven in my eyes.
At number 3, I have Chelsie. And Chelsea's HOH week was great, all things considered. Like, she got no blood on her hands, she got her target out. It was a great week for her. However, the reason why she actually dropped in the power ranking is because that she was the HOH. She didn't really have that freedom to go out and actively strategize with as many people as she would have liked. When she was the BBAI mascot last week, she was operating from a position of no power that actually gave her a lot of power. Because she didn't have a vote, she was able to more freely strategize with other people. However, because this week she was the HOH, she didn't necessarily have that freedom. People were a bit more cautious to give her information because she was the HOH and because that information could potentially spread. And that honestly hurt Chelsie, all things considered. Mind you, Chelsie was able to get some good information out of people such as Makensy and Angela that is going to benefit her in the long run, but Chelsie just wasn't able to do as much effective work in connecting with more people to put herself in a more safe position. She didn't create any new targets, she didn't create any new enemies coming out of her HOH, but she didn't necessarily build or solidify the bonds that I personally would have liked for her to do this week. I think if she would have tightened the Pentagon and really locked everybody in to the point where nobody is even considering flipping or going to build new alliances, I think that would have been great for her. I think if she could have had some sort of secret final 2 and really locked it in with Joseph this week, I think that would have been great for her. But she just wasn't able to do these things because she was so caught up in keeping her HOH as clean as possible. And while keeping a clean HOH would have been great for her in this short term, I think in the long term, the time she didn't spend building and solidifying these relationships could come back to bite her. Now, that being said, I don't think she's in any danger whatsoever, but still, I would have liked Chelsie to actually go out and branch more relationships, but she's still in a great position. She still has an amazing power structure, amazing allies that are still backing her up, and I don't think she's going home anytime soon, which is why I have her here at number 3.
Is there any way on God's green earth we can get rid of both Angela and Lisa? Because I don't know if we can take one more minute of either of these jokers.
At number 2, I have Quinn. And for me, Quinn's position on this power ranking was hinging on whether or not Angela went home in this eviction. And because Angela didn't go home in this eviction, I have to put Quinn here at number 2 because Angela did a lot of work in dismantling Quinn's trust and kind of upsetting the foundation that Quinn has set up in this previous week. Even though nobody believed Angela in what she was saying about Quinn having this upgrade, people around Quinn have implicitly confirmed this information, which is upsetting a lot of people in terms of their trust of Quinn, particularly people like Tucker. And the fact that Angela is still in the house and still has the potential to spread all of these rumors is going to do a lot of damage to Quinn's game. However, that's only one small error in the grand scheme of things because Quinn is doing a great job right now. It is actually insane how many final 2s this guy has. He's being pulled in so many different directions that people are calling him the second coming of Tyler Crispin, and how everybody's pulling him into final 2s. Everybody's pulling him into alliances, and everybody wants to work with Quinn. Like, it's absolutely insane. Like, people are Angela is spreading information to a majority of the house that should make a lot of people mistrust Quinn about how Quinn potentially has this upgrade and how Quinn has been hiding it. However, nobody believes Angela because of how much they trust Quinn. And I do think that trust is eventually going to get upset because people around Quinn are confirming some of the lies that Quinn has been telling, and that could disrupt him in like the short term. But Quinn, as of right now, has so many alliances, so many allegiances, so many final twos that I don't foresee him going home anytime soon. And with him having this deep fake HOH, I really don't think it's going to do him any harm in the short term. Long term, I do think he could be seen as this big threat, as he could be perceived as overplaying. But as of right now, Quinn is in an amazing position and would have been number one had it not been for Angela. But overall, he's still doing an amazing job, which is why he is here at number 2.
But at the same time, I was scheming. I was fully scheming. I was being a nefarious guy.
At number 1, the house guest I believe to be in the best position as of week 2 is Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is continuing to surprise me every single week. She may not be getting a lot of dedicated screen time, both on the shows and the live feeds, but she is still doing so much amazing work where we're hearing through the grapevine that everybody wants to bring Brooklyn in. I wish that we got day 1 feeds so that way we could see all of the amazing work that Brooklyn is doing, because clearly she has some sort of influence that is having people wanting to pull her into all of these alliances. She got included in this big initial power structure in the Pentagon. Even before that, she was included in the Collective. Then she has the Pentagon, and now everyone, or the people who want to form this new group with T-Core and Kimo and Quinn and Rubina and Tucker, now also want to pull in Brooklyn. And not only that, Brooklyn has the other side of the house as well. She has really tight bonds with the likes of Makensy and Leah. She has the All Girls Alliance that believes she's loyal to that. Like, Brooklyn has so many options, and what puts her above Quinn is that nobody suspects her. Nobody thinks Brooklyn is shady. Nobody thinks that she's double crossing them. Nobody thinks that Brooklyn is an immediate target and that needs to get taken out anytime soon. Nobody's spreading any bad blood or bad information about Brooklyn, and it is putting her in a great position. I don't see anybody targeting Brooklyn anytime soon, and it's this amazing work that she's putting in right now that I could see her going very far into this game. I'm honestly kind of hoping that she does go kind of far in this game, considering how effective and how great of work she's doing right now in this moment. It would honestly be a bit of a double-edged sword to see if she were to crash and burn after this, considering all of this great work. But as it stands right now, she's in an amazing position. I don't think anybody's actively targeting her at this point in the game, and it's because of all of these great points that I have to have Brooklyn here at number 1.
All of a sudden, we're in this like computer lab. Geek chic is absolutely the vibe, or at least I think I'm making it the vibe.
Overall, week 2 definitely was not nearly as chaotic or nearly as eventful as week 1, but I definitely do think it serves as a critical rest week for this week, because after all of the insanity that happened week 1, I don't know if my heart would have been able to contain another week of absolute blow-ups and everything just flipping and everything just being so crazy. I don't know if my heart would have been able to contain it. But honestly, this week was a bit more peaceful, a bit more straightforward in terms of the plans and the strategies and stuff like that. And maybe that's attributed to Chelsie being the HOH and wanting to have a more clean and peaceful week. But this week was not bad by any means. Like, we still got entertainment. We still got great gameplay from the likes of like Brooklyn and Quinn. Like, we're still receiving a lot, and we're still gaining a lot in terms of like entertainment and gameplay. Like, we're still gaining a lot of things, but it just wasn't as crazy as week 1. And maybe in hindsight, this is going to be a low point for the season, but as of right now, I still think it's a pretty good thing, all things considered, and I think this season still has a lot of potential to be an all-time great season. But those are just my thoughts. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you have any of those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
I like biscuits.